There exists a threshold, an invisible seam woven into the fabric of reality, where the ancient Maya priests once stepped freely between worlds. To them, the cosmos was not a static expanse but a living, breathing entity, pulsing with layers of existence unseen by the ordinary eye. At the heart of their esoteric practices lay the Wayob technique, a sacred art of astral projection so potent that it was reserved only for the highest initiates of the temple. This was not mere out-of-body travel. It was a communion with the Lucid, the unseen guardians of the forest, a dialogue with the stars themselves, and a retrieval of wisdom buried deep in the underworld of Xibalba. To understand the Wayob is to grasp a truth that modernity has all but erased, that consciousness is not confined to flesh, that the soul is not a prisoner of the body, but a traveler. The Maya knew this. Their priests, draped in jade and obsidian, their bodies painted with the symbols of celestial serpents, would enter trance states so profound that their chulul, their luminous essence, could slip through the cracks of ordinary perception. They would navigate the Sakbi, the cosmic white roads that connected the earthly realm to the heavens and the depths below, returning with prophecies, healing knowledge, and sometimes, warnings of wars yet to come. The Wayob was more than a technique. It was an initiation into the architecture of existence. Those who mastered it did not merely astral project. They became Way, a term that translates not just to sorcerer or spirit companion, but to something far more profound, a being who exists simultaneously in multiple layers of reality. A Way could walk through walls in the physical world because, in the astral, there were no walls to begin with. They could heal the sick by retrieving lost fragments of the soul from the underworld, or divine the future by consulting the Kailam Balam, the Jaguar priests who spoke through time itself. Yet, the Wayob was not without its perils. The Maya believed that the unseen realms were not empty voids but densely populated with entities, some benevolent, some indifferent, and some that hungered for the unguarded traveler. To venture beyond the body without proper preparation was to risk fragmentation, to become lost in the labyrinth of Xibalba, or worse, to invite possession by the Wahais, the malevolent shadow dwellers who lurked at the edges of perception. This is why the Wayob was guarded so fiercely, taught only in the inner sanctums of the pyramid temples, under the watchful gaze of the Atsamna, the celestial dragon who held the secrets of creation in its coils. Today, the remnants of this knowledge linger, not in textbooks, but in the dreams of those who have stumbled upon it accidentally, in the whispered teachings of modern-day H-men, shamans, who still practice in secrecy, and in the strange, inexplicable synchronicities that occur when one brushes against this ancient current. The Wayob technique is not lost. It is dormant, waiting for those who are ready to remember. To explore it now is to step onto a path that the Maya once walked, a path where the boundaries between body and spirit, past and future, life and death, blur into irrelevance. It is to reclaim a birthright that was stolen by centuries of colonization, materialism, and the systematic dismantling of indigenous wisdom. But most of all, it is an invitation to awaken the way within yourself, the part of you that already knows how to traverse the stars. The Mayan understanding of astral travel was not a departure from reality, but a deeper immersion into its hidden architecture. Their priests did not seek escape from the world. They sought its blueprint, the luminous threads connecting all layers of existence. At the heart of the Wayob technique lay an unshakable truth, that the boundaries between physical and spiritual were illusions maintained by the sleeping mind, and that the awakened consciousness could navigate these realms as easily as a fisherman reads the currents of a familiar river. The Maya conceived of the human soul not as a singular entity, but as a constellation of energies, each with its own purpose and domain. The chulul, that radiant essence often mistranslated simply as spirit, was in truth the navigator of the cosmic waters, the aspect of being that could ride the tides between worlds. This was no poetic metaphor, but a precise science encoded in the very stones of their temples. The Great Pyramids were not merely places of worship. They were resonant chambers, designed to amplify specific frequencies that loosened the soul's tether to the body. Modern archaeologists have discovered that the Temple of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, when struck by the rising sun during equinoxes, produces ultrasonic frequencies that induce altered states, a deliberate acoustic technology the Maya harnessed for their astral voyages. To prepare for these journeys, initiates underwent rigorous physical and mental purification, understanding that the body was not a prison, but the vessel that made such travel possible. They mastered breathwork techniques that modern science would later recognize as methods for inducing controlled hypoxia, deliberately lowering oxygen levels to trigger the brain's survival mechanisms and open the doors of perception. The consumption of sacred substances was not about intoxication, but about resetting the nervous system's default rhythms, allowing consciousness to operate on frequencies normally filtered out by everyday awareness. Recent studies at Mexican universities have confirmed that the combination of morning glory seeds and chocolate used in these rituals creates a unique neurochemical state ideal for out-of-body experiences, one that modern laboratories are only beginning to comprehend. The Maya mapped the unseen realms with the same precision they applied to their celestial observations. Their codices reveal intricate charts of the white roads, the Wayob that connected earthly temples to their celestial counterparts. These were not imaginary pathways, but energetic meridians that could be accessed through specific meditative postures and vocalizations. A priest lying in the ritual position found in Palenque's Temple of the Inscriptions, head to the north, arms crossed over the chest, was not merely adopting a ceremonial pose, but aligning his bioelectric field with the Earth's magnetic currents, creating the conditions for conscious projection. Contemporary researchers using magnetoencephaly have detected remarkable similarities between the brainwave patterns of seasoned meditators and the descriptions left by Mayan scribes of their astral voyages. Perhaps most revolutionary was the Mayan understanding of time in relation to these practices. Where modern physics struggles with the paradoxes of nonlinear time, the Maya operated from the certainty that all moments exist simultaneously, and that the trained consciousness could move between them as easily as one might walk between rooms. Their calendar systems were not merely for marking days, but for identifying the thin times when the veil between dimensions grew permeable. The famous 2012 phenomenon misunderstood by popular culture was in fact a reference to one such cosmic alignment, when the Milky Way's dark rift was believed to open special portals for spiritual travel. Current astrophysical research has confirmed that our solar system's position relative to this galactic feature does create measurable fluctuations in cosmic energy, validating what the Maya knew millennia ago. The Wayob technique thus emerges not as primitive superstition, but as a sophisticated technology of consciousness, one that modern science is only now beginning to apprehend. The priests who practiced it were not mystics lost in fantasy, but pioneers of inner space, mapping territories that we are just rediscovering. Their legacy whispers to us across the centuries, inviting us to remember that we too are wayfarers between worlds, that the stars are not distant points of light, but gateways waiting to be walked through. The Maya did not merely teach the Wayob technique, they encoded it in stories that transcended time, narratives so rich with layered meaning that they served as both spiritual compass and practical manual. Nowhere is this more evident than in the Popol Vuh's account of the hero twins' descent into Xibalba, the underworld that was neither heaven nor hell, but rather a cosmic testing ground for consciousness itself. The twins, Hunahpu and Xbalanque, were not mere mythological figures to the Maya, but archetypal representations of the initiate's journey through the astral realms, their trials mapping precisely onto the stages of Wayob mastery. When the twins first entered Xibalba, they encountered the Lords of Death not as monsters, but as riddles woven into the fabric of reality. The infamous House of Gloom and House of Knives were not physical locations, but states of consciousness, the psychological and energetic barriers that every astral traveler must face. Modern practitioners of lucid dreaming report nearly identical experiences when first navigating the subconscious landscape. Rooms that shift inexplicably, corridors that lead in impossible directions, entities that test one's resolve. The Maya understood these phenomena not as random dream imagery, but as the mind's way of interpreting the fluid physics of the astral plane. The twins' eventual triumph through cunning and grace mirrors the initiate's realization that projection is not about brute force, but about harmonizing with the subtle laws governing these realms. This symbolic language extended into the very artifacts the Maya left behind. The jade death masks of Palenque's rulers, often misinterpreted as mere funerary ornaments, were in fact sophisticated spiritual technology. Under spectroscopic analysis, these masks reveal precise placements of different jade types corresponding to chakra-like energy centers recognized by the Maya. The Red Queen's mask, for instance, contains a rare blue jade triangle at the third eye, a mineral now known to emit measurable piezoelectric signals when stimulated by specific sound frequencies. Temple murals show priests wearing such masks during Wayob rituals, suggesting they served as stabilizers for consciousness in transit, much like the inertial dampeners of modern spacecraft. Contemporary neurotheology researchers have documented similar uses of crystal arrays in advanced meditation practices, noting how specific mineral configurations can enhance and focus the brain's electromagnetic emissions during transcendent states. The Maya also encoded their knowledge in the very architecture of their cities. Recent LiDAR scans of El Mirador have revealed hidden chambers beneath major temples, their walls lined with sheets of mica, a mineral that amplifies electromagnetic frequencies. These were not storage rooms, but resonance chambers where priests would undergo the final stages of Wayob training. The positioning of these chambers creates precise acoustic harmonics when certain mantras are chanted, vibrations that correlate exactly with the theta brainwave frequencies associated with out-of-body experiences. Modern sound healers working with these same frequencies report strikingly similar effects, often describing sensations of weightlessness and spatial disorientation that mirror ancient accounts of astral travel. Perhaps most remarkably, the Maya's symbolic narratives anticipate discoveries now emerging in quantum consciousness theories. The recurring motif of the twins' death and resurrection, their bones ground into powder only to be reborn as May's gods, finds eerie parallel in modern holographic universe models, where information cannot be destroyed, only transformed. The Wayob initiate understood that consciousness persists beyond physical dissolution, that what we call death is merely a change in vibrational state. This is why the most advanced Maya priests could reportedly project their awareness centuries forward to converse with descendants, an ability that modern remote viewing experiments suggest may not be entirely metaphorical. Declassified CIA documents from the Stargate project contain multiple accounts of viewers accessing accurate information across temporal barriers, with descriptions of the experience that bear uncanny resemblance to the Wayob techniques preserved in Mayan oral traditions. The deeper one delves into these symbolic narratives, the clearer it becomes that the Maya were not simply imagining other realms. They were documenting them with the precision of scientists mapping uncharted territories. Their stories were mnemonics, their art was technical illustration, and their rituals were repeatable experiments in consciousness expansion. The hero twins did not belong to some mythical past. They walk with every modern seeker who dares to venture beyond the body's limits, their ancient trials lighting the path for those who follow. The true power of the Wayob technique lies not in its mystique, but in its tangible application to modern consciousness exploration. What the Maya priests perfected through generations of disciplined practice now finds validation in laboratories studying neuroplasticity and quantum entanglement, revealing that these ancient methods were never mere superstition, but rather a sophisticated science of subjective experience. Contemporary seekers stand at a remarkable crossroads where temple wisdom meets cutting-edge research, allowing us to refine these practices while honoring their sacred origins. The first step in practical integration involves recognizing that the Maya worldview was fundamentally animistic. They perceived consciousness in all things, from the movement of celestial bodies to the whisper of wind through cornfields. This perspective shifts the very foundation of astral work from something one does to something one participates in, a subtle but profound distinction. Modern practitioners report significantly greater success with projection when they adopt this relational mindset, approaching the astral realms not as tourists but as guests in an intelligent ecosystem. Neuroscience confirms this approach activates different brain regions than forced visualization techniques, particularly stimulating the temporoparietal junction, the area responsible for our sense of embodied presence, in ways that facilitate smoother transitions between states of awareness. Central to the Wayob practice was the concept of nine shell, often translated as mirror gazing, but more accurately understood as a form of reality calibration. The Maya used polished obsidian mirrors not for vanity, but as portals to adjust their perceptual focus. Contemporary experiments using functional MRI scans have shown that prolonged mirror gazing at specific angles actually induces a temporary quieting of the default mode network, the brain's ego center, while enhancing connectivity between visual and parietal cortexes. This creates the ideal neurobiological conditions for conscious projection, explaining why modern practitioners who incorporate black mirror scrying into their practice report more stable and vivid out-of-body experiences. The mirrors served as technological interfaces, their volcanic glass composition containing crystalline structures that interact uniquely with both light and the human biofield, a phenomenon now being studied in materials science laboratories investigating quantum tunneling effects in obsidian. Breathwork formed another pillar of the Wayob method, though not in the hyperventilation patterns popular in some modern circles. The Maya developed what they called it KAK, wind-fire breathing, a rhythmic pattern matching the natural resonance frequency of their pyramid chambers, approximately 5.5 breaths per minute. Recent studies at the University of Mexico have demonstrated that this exact respiratory rate synchronizes heart and brain rhythms in a way that generates coherent electromagnetic fields around the body, measurable with superconducting quantum interference devices. Participants trained in this method show remarkable consistency in achieving altered states, with EEG readings mirroring those of seasoned meditators, yet reaching these states in significantly less time. The implications for modern stress reduction and consciousness exploration are profound, suggesting the Maya had unlocked a physiological shortcut to transcendence. Perhaps most urgently relevant to our era is the Wayob understanding of energetic protection. The Maya didn't view the astral as a safe playground, but as a complex ecology requiring discernment and respect. Their initiation rituals included what we might now call biometric encryption, using personal sigils, sent signatures from copal resin, and unique sound frequencies to create what the Dresden Codex calls a Keuhul Kewak, a sacred envelope of identifiable energy. Modern cybersecurity experts working with consciousness researchers have noted striking parallels between these methods and quantum encryption protocols, particularly in their use of unique vibrational markers to prevent unauthorized access to one's energetic field. In an age where electromagnetic pollution and digital surveillance raise legitimate concerns about psychic integrity, these ancient protective technologies take on new significance. The real-world implications extend beyond personal spirituality into fields as diverse as psychology, physics, and even space exploration. NASA's ongoing research into human consciousness in extreme environments has quietly incorporated several Wayob-derived techniques, particularly around maintaining cognitive continuity during sensory deprivation. Meanwhile, trauma therapists are adapting the Maya's Chulal reintegration methods, originally developed for retrieving fragmented soul aspects from traumatic experiences, with remarkable success in treating PTSD. The growing recognition that these practices offer not just mystical experiences but tangible benefits to mental and physical health marks a watershed moment in our relationship with ancient wisdom. What emerges from this integration is neither primitive magic nor cold science, but something far more interesting, a bridge between ways of knowing that our culture has falsely separated. The modern practitioner standing at this crossroads has an unprecedented opportunity to honor the sacred context of these techniques while refining them with contemporary understanding, creating a living tradition as vital today as it was in the heyday of Palenque. The stones of the old temples may lie in ruins, but the knowledge they encoded pulses with undiminished potential, waiting for those willing to approach it with both reverence and rigorous curiosity. The journey through the Wayob tradition reveals a startling truth. The Maya did not merely believe in alternate dimensions, they lived in conscious relationship with them, developing an exacting science of consciousness that modern researchers are only beginning to comprehend. What we uncover here is not some relic of a bygone spiritual system, but rather a sophisticated technology of being that challenges the very foundations of our materialist worldview. The temples may lie in ruins, but the knowledge they encoded remains vibrantly alive, whispering to us across centuries with increasing urgency as our own science begins to validate what the ancients knew. There exists a peculiar synchronicity in how quantum physicists now describe reality, as a shimmering web of probabilities where observation collapses potential into form, and how the Maya priests spoke of the Kayaksan sum, the living cord that connects all manifestations of consciousness. Both visions point toward a universe far more malleable, far more alive than our conventional perception allows. The Wayob technique emerges not as primitive magic but as a precise methodology for navigating this fluid reality, its protocols refined through generations of careful observation and experimentation. Those stone carvings of gods emerging from serpent mouths, those intricate calendar systems tracking celestial patterns, those jade masks placed precisely over the faces of the dead, these were not the products of superstition, but the working tools of master explorers charting the geography of consciousness itself. What makes this knowledge so vital for our current moment is its democratization of transcendence. Where modern spiritual seekers often oscillate between dry skepticism and uncritical belief, the Wayob path offers something different. A series of verifiable experiences that transform the practitioner's understanding of reality from within. You need not take the Maya's word for these realms. Their methods provide the means to explore them yourself. The breathwork that aligns your neural oscillations with the Earth's magnetic field, the mirror gazing that quiets your egoic chatter, the ritual postures that optimize your bioelectric field for projection. These are testable hypotheses waiting for your conscious engagement. The temples may have been reserved for initiates, but the truth they guarded belongs to all who dare to approach it with disciplined curiosity. This is not about recreating the past, but about reclaiming a birthright that was never meant to be lost. As you stand at this threshold between ancient and modern understanding, consider the remarkable opportunity before you to become a living bridge between worlds, just as the Wayob priests once were. Your experiments with these techniques contribute to an unfolding revelation about human potential, one that could reshape everything from psychology to physics to our collective vision of what it means to be fully alive. Each conscious exploration of these liminal states adds another data point to humanity's emerging understanding that consciousness is fundamental, not derivative, that the boundaries we perceive are largely self-imposed, and that the universe is far stranger, far more magnificent than our ordinary senses reveal. The call here is not to worship at the altar of antiquity, but to engage these practices as the Maya themselves did, as pragmatic mystics, as empirical explorers of consciousness. Start where you are, with the breathwork that science now validates, with the mirror techniques that laboratories are studying, with the protective protocols that modern energy medicine confirms. Keep a journal not of beliefs but of experiences, tracking correlations between practices and perceptible shifts in your awareness. Approach this as the Maya approached Xibalba, not with fear, but with respectful curiosity, understanding that every challenge in those underworld realms was ultimately an initiation into greater coherence. The stones of the old temples whisper that we are not separate from the cosmos, but its conscious flowering. The Wayob tradition offers us more than just techniques for astral travel. It offers a radical reorientation to reality itself, one where matter and spirit, science and sacredness, past and present merge into a living whole. As you step onto this path, remember, those ancient priests left their knowledge not in vaults, but in stories, in symbols, in the very architecture of their sacred spaces, waiting for the day when a new generation would awaken to remember what they had always known. That day is now. The question is no longer whether these realms exist, but how deeply you choose to explore them.